Hello, welcome back to Voices of Disruption. My name is Ahmed, Senior Content Producer on Mining Indaba 2024. Today, I've got the distinct privilege to introduce Ambassador J. Peter Pham, former US Ambassador and Special Envoy to the Sahel and Great Lakes. Ambassador, how are you today?
Pleasure to be with you, Ahmed.
Pleasure to have you. Those paintings behind you are great. I love them.
Thank you. They're from a young Congolese Democratic Republic of Congo artist that has taken some traditional motifs and used them to give voice to his own thoughts and vision. And that's pretty much what we're about, I think, here at Indaba this year. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, on that, speaking of Africa and mining Indaba, my first question with regards to this interview is looking at the continent right now. There's a tremendous amount of mineral potential. In terms of its extraction and the value maximization, there is still a long way to go. In your perspective, what are the current limiting factors when we're looking at the maximization of mineral potential in Africa?
Well, thanks for the question, Ahmed. First, as everyone knows, there is no energy transition. There is no bridge to the future without the contribution that Africa and Africa's mineral resources, particularly the critical minerals, is going to make to it. But what's limiting it is, first and foremost, if I had to pick one, it's energy. It's access to reliable, affordable energy for mining, most certainly, but also for ordinary Africans. And associated with that, one could probably follow data and communications, but certainly energy. And there's a tremendous underinvestment in that infrastructure, much of it going to generation, which is important, but also for delivery of energy.
Great answer. I want to lead on then from what you've mentioned with regards to the energy transition and critical minerals. I mean, it's no secret with the priorities of energy transition across the world, and 2050 still sounds like it's a long time ago, but we're rapidly running out of time. So there's been a huge jump to securing access, and secure access specifically to minerals. How has the rush for these critical assets, these minerals, politicized their access and extraction across the continent?
Well, I would turn that around a little bit, Ahmed, and say that this presents Africa with a unique generational opportunity to make its voice heard and to be strategically relevant into the great conversations about the future of our planet and really of our economies around the globe. It's a unique opportunity, but it has to be strategically seized. There's certainly interest in secure supply chains from consumers around the world, but particularly from North America, Europe, the developed world, securing access to these minerals. On the other hand, that access also comes with it the opportunity for beneficiation, making the value added if, as we talked about just a moment ago, the energy is available, the data, the knowledge is available, then it's an opportunity for a win-win. De-risking supply chains for developed countries can go hand in hand with beneficiation development for African countries, but they both have to come together for that.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and thank you for framing it in that way. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges right now, but I think it's also very important to focus on the positive. Speaking on the positive, and actually leading on quite nicely from what you've discussed about the developed and bringing together all aspects. A key driver or a key investment driver currently, and one shepherded by the US that's received a lot of light, is the Lobito Corridor. I think it's become quite a bit of a shining example as to how things can be done right when all aspects of the value chain come together. In your perspective, how can such investment initiatives boost mining whilst also catalyzing both economic and local growth?
Well, the Lobito Corridor, I think rightly is celebrated because it's a dream that Africans have had for a long time. This is not a new idea. There have been studies and discussions of this going back decades. But what has changed has been the the catalytic effect that first the United States, but then its partners in the G7, and now wider partners, including the European Union, the African Development Bank, the African Infrastructure Fund, all coming together to develop an African idea, an African dream, but do it in a holistic way. It's not just about access to minerals in Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Zambia. Certainly that transport minerals is there, but also it's about data, it's about food security, it's about creating corridors that link people. So it's a holistic approach. And what would emphasize is this is just one project. In a way, it's a pilot of what can be done, and I could foresee being done in other parts of Africa, East Africa, and certainly West Africa. Some wonderful opportunities for similar concepts where a little bit of leverage from an outside partner, such as the United States or the European Union, but also African institutions and regional communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've spoken quite a bit there about the African piece. I think it's very important that the global energy transition doesn't come at the cost of Africa's own. And the integration of a lot of African stakeholders is a key element of that. But looking at the Lobito Corridor, I think it's very important to not just consider it as a pilot or as a one-off, but as a blueprint, and as a blueprint for successive investment initiatives. With that being said, I want to ask you, in your perspective, how important is it for future investment initiatives such as the Lobito Corridor, or ones that follow in its footprints? How important is it for those to be African-owned and African-led?
Well, I would argue that it's the condition sine qua non for sustainability. It can't be an imposition from the outside. It can't only serve outside interests. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. It won't have the political support. It won't have the economic support. It just won't make sense. But where it can be, and what it can be, is the potential to be a win-win, to securing supplies for outside countries and actors that need those critical minerals, but also an engine for beneficiation and doing value added and creating knowledge transfers, and also for linking Africa together. So I think it is an opportunity, and it's a generational opportunity at this moment when there's such attention paid to de-risking supply chains and making Africa part of the story that it is going to contribute significantly toward.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think you've hit the nail there on the head. My final question, and given the theme of this year's Mining Indaba, I just want to ask you very quickly, in your thoughts, looking at positive disruption, who's getting it right? Who's got you excited? What are you seeing in the region or in the continent that is doing well, and you're excited to see more of?
Well, what I'm most excited about is the synergy that has emerged between the needs of countries and consumers in developed economies, the United States, our European friends, Japan, and other places, as well as emerging economies in the Gulf, the Arab states, others on one hand, and the desire of Africans to get a bigger stake in what are their resources, their beneficiation, their value added. And for once, there's a synergy between securing the supplies needed and benefiting those whose subsoil this all comes from. So in a way, it is, to use a hackneyed phrase that perhaps is used too much, but it is an opportunity for a win-win.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, and I think that's a great way to summarize our discussion today. Ambassador Pham, thank you very much for your time, and I'm excited to hear more of what you have to say on this topic and others at next year's Mining Indaba.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Ahmed.